From Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 214. It's week 39 of 2025, and I'm Alexander Leibner. And a very special welcome to you, and to you, especially if you are listening for the very first time. But also, if you're a regular listener, if you're part of the Sandton Times Hour Nation, and you're tuning in from Pretoria and Johannesburg, across South Africa, and everywhere else in the world, I know we've got a second place listenership in Nigeria. So South Africa comes number one. Then our second biggest listenership is Nigeria. So welcome to you if you're tuning in from West Africa. If it's online or on air, wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandton land. And as those regular listeners know, Vincenzo, our sound engineer, is behind the mixing desk again. And Vincenzo, buonasera, buongiorno, whatever time of the day you're listening to this to. We've got another jam-packed week to digest. Interesting events, fabulous gatherings, and so much going on in Sandton. Kicking off with cars.co.za, they hosted their very first DealerCon in Sandton, and there's some fabulous speakers. This was an event that brought together a whole bunch of dealerships, dealer principals, people in the car space, and it's always great to get an insight into what other people do on a daily basis. This was an opportunity for those in the car industry and selling cars on a daily basis to get some insights, get some ideas. And I had a chance to briefly catch up with two former colleagues, Vincenzo. Bumped into Aki Anastasiou and Fifi Peters. They were both very competently moderating this event, keeping things flowing. Not an easy job, as I know well myself. And Vusi Timbakwayo, he did an interesting keynote, and as well as Wendy Nola. She spoke about all things consumer rights in the motoring space and cars, and you can just imagine the amount of issues and complaints that she gets to hear about when it comes to buying a second-hand car, a brand new car. She laid it all out. Then the IIE, they own places like Varsity College, Vega. We spoke to them a couple of weeks ago on this show. Well, we mentioned that they're going to be building a mega campus in the heart of Sandton, something like 15,000 students and counting. Well, they broke ground, and they've well underway in terms of the construction. It's all meant to be finished by the end of the year. And they did a bit of a walkabout, and they also revealed the new name of this campus. It's going to be called Emirates Campus in the heart of Sandton, just off Grayston Drive, if you kind of know where it is. It's next to the Maslow and opposite the KFC and the BP garage on Grayston Drive. But this is going to be quite a game changer, I think, for the heart of Sandton and its economy, and all of those who feed into that campus. Then Longchamp, I think that's how it's pronounced, in Sandton City. They opened the doors to their newly renovated store. So if you're into all things French leather goods, well, there's a new store to go check out in Sandton City. Then we had Sin Restaurant, which is at LXX in Sandhurst. They revealed their new Italian menu for the next couple of months. They've refreshed a couple of dishes, moved a few things around, changed a few things, and they had a very busy evening, an opening where they showcased a lot of their dishes. And let me tell you, Vincenzo, you obviously been spoiled with Italian food, but let me tell you, really good dishes. Very, very nice food. They brought some really great stuff online, and worth having a look at and giving it a try if you're into Italian food. Then iPhone 17, that landed in Sandton this week, as announced a couple of days ago by Apple, and iStore hosted a chance to see some of the new products and displays. They've launched that new iPhone Air, that super thin iPhone. It's incredible how thin it is. And then unrelated, this sort of came out of nowhere, the DA announced Helen Zille as their mayoral candidate for Johannesburg. So it looks like the election wheels are soon going to start turning in the build-up to the municipal elections next year. So this is possibly the starting line of all things election world and us hearing about it. But interesting to see Helen Zille back in the mayoral running. Happy Heritage Day for this week, and if you're looking forward to the public holiday, well, good on you. And if you've taken these 2 days off, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday's off, or maybe you're taking the whole week off, or maybe you're just taking Thursday, Friday, whatever your long weekend plans are, I hope you enjoy it, and you hope you make the Sandton Times Hour part of that sit back, relax, and switch off time. What are we going to cover this week? Well, in a bit, I'll be joined by a man in charge of a major golfing tournament heading our way in 2026. I'll be getting all the details, so take a listen to that. Then I'll take a look at the state of tourism in South Africa and why our once prime position as a destination of choice is steadily eroding. As always, I then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to chat all things entertainment, and we will take a look at some of the new movies out on circuit. And finally, if you're in the job market or entering the job market, AI skills, artificial intelligence skills, have become more and more important than you could even imagine. Stick around for all the details on this with my expert guest. More coming up in the next hour, and I'd also like to hear from you. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send through your questions, comments, and feedback on email editor@sandtontimes.co.za, or you can connect on social media @Sandton Times, or hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and of course use our exclusive WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 726 3866, and slap an 084 in front of that, and you're in the money. If you're not part of the podcast community, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on all major podcast platforms, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So we turn our attention to the fairways and to a major announcement shaking up the world of golf. And for the very first time, LIV Golf is coming to South Africa, with Steyn City in Sandton confirmed as the host of the debut LIV Golf South Africa event from the 20th to the 22nd of March 2026. And it's not just a once-off. This is part of a multi-year commitment marking LIV's expansion into the African continent, and fans can expect a festival of golf, music, and world-class entertainment alongside a swing of South African golfers. To tell us more about what this milestone means for the sport, for South Africans, for the fans, I'm joined by Chris Bentley. He's the General Manager at LIV Golf for the EMEA region. And Chris, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
I'm a big fan, so thanks for having me.
Chris, it's good to have you on. LIV Golf, maybe for those people not familiar with LIV Golf, they're familiar with things like the Masters, PGA. Where does it all fit into the hierarchy of the golfing world?
LIV Golf is just over 3 years old now. It was started by Greg Norman, and he kind of got things underway, and it's quite remarkable, to look at where it's come from over the past 3 years and where it's at today. And the exciting part is the way that it's just growing. In the last year we've gone from a broadcast of 450 million to 900 million. We're now in 120 countries across the world. The future looks really bright to us, and personally, I just wake up thinking, how did I get so lucky and blessed to have a job like this? It's just it's super exciting, and I'm the kind of person that just loves to be in the innovation and creative space, and that's what LIV is, right? Super excited, and obviously to bring a LIV event to my home countries is pretty special.
Why was it so important to bring this tournament to South Africa?
So I think, part of LIV's mission is a bit like Formula One, right? We want to take golf to the world. We want to grow the game. That's the path that we're setting. We're going to be the global tour. And, part of that is the continent of Africa. And so it was quite obvious that at some point we needed to get into Africa, and now we're here. So our mission statement and where we're traveling, and it's a perfect fit, and in conjunction with a wonderful partnership with government, and the Minister of Sport being Gates and McKenzie, we've seen it come to life pretty quick.
As most South African golfers know, we're spoiled for choice when it comes to exceptional golf courses across the country. You settled for Steyn City. Why was that your venue of choice for this event?
Steyn City is a remarkable property, and I think it's as good as anything in the world. I think Stephen and the team at Steyn City are amazing at what they do. And in terms of not just the golf course, but the entire offering, from hotels to spas and all the wonderful amenities, it's just a world-class property. And if you look at the golf course for the players, it's a Jack Nicklaus design, and it's got that natural kind of stadium viewing. So you can be kind of 2, 3, 4 rows back and you can see all the action. So for us, it was quite an easy choice. We did have a look at a lot of golf courses in the country, but LIV also comes with a lot of infrastructure. It's more than just golf, right? We've got amazing international artists that come in. And so we need a lot of space, and we build these incredible hospitality structures. I'm sure you've heard of the party hole. And so, we need the space, and, Steyn City was just the absolute perfect fit for us.
Is there other upgrades to infrastructure that's required as part of this? I mean, you were referencing events like, F1, etc. Is this one of these events where you're also going to have to widen roads, add on additional hotels, all this kind of stuff to actually accommodate an event of this size?
So that's the other thing with Steyn City. Monte Casino's located just down the road, so there's an abundance of wonderful hotels there and hospitality offerings. So that also tied into the kind of bigger picture. From an infrastructure perspective, we find that most golf courses we go to, generally speaking, the driving ranges aren't big enough because of the shotgun start format. So we've got 54 of the world's best golfers, and they all need to practice at the same time, and they tee off at the same time. So one of the only change we're currently going through is actually widening the driving range at Steyn City, and that's it. Other than that, everything's kind of plug and play. So from a venue perspective, it's almost perfect. Subtle, small changes needed, and that's it.
We've got some big South African names playing in the tournament, but also some big international names. What do you think this is going to do for the country's sporting reputation, but also just igniting that passion for golf?
Generally speaking, I think South Africa's starved of international events. And I think the last time we had a field in South Africa like this was probably, the President's Cup in 2003. It's an incredible opportunity to showcase our country, showcase local musicians, and it's a place to do business, and it's remarkable for holidays and investment. And so it gives our country the opportunity not just to have this special event, but far beyond that, economic impact and all the wonderful things that come with it. It's pretty special.
The evolution of the event, I mean, I know you've got some time now to plan the first one, but if you had to start looking ahead, I know this is always a multi-year consideration. How do you see this evolving over the coming years and growing this event?
We've been quite taken back at how the market has responded so far. When we made the announcement, we were in the UK. We did the announcement with the minister, and within 3 weeks, we'd already sold 35,000 tickets.
Sure.
And, that's never been done with LIV Golf before. So, the early bird, we quickly kind of cut off and said, okay, that's enough early bird tickets. And we've started a waiting list, and that's got a couple thousand on it already. And our main ticket launch, including all the hospitality products, etc., that's going to come out at the end of October. So I think the market has spoken, if we can say that. They're super excited. And then that also ties into, the corporate market. Corporates are super hungry. We've got tons of sponsors which we're engaging with. Everybody just wants to be part of it. So I think we're off to a really good start. But like anything, we're not going to settle for 1 year's success. We want it to be bigger and better every year. And, we want it to become a household name, and we want to stay in South Africa as long as possible.
I mean, you touched on 35,000 there. What is your total capacity for this event?
So for year one, we're looking at 70,000 over the 3 days. That'll be capacity. The venue can certainly accommodate more, but we also want to be in control of our own destiny, and that kind of, call it, customer experience is super important to us. And year one at a new venue is always the toughest. We don't know where to plug things in, and we're always navigating, what does best in class look like. And so we're busy going through all that kind of stuff now. And And I think as we progress with that, we'll increase those numbers in the years ahead, definitely.
Well, there you have it. Chris Bentley's General Manager at LIV Golf for the EMEA region, giving us a bit of a taster of what's to come next year. And it's still got a couple of months lined up. So I'm sure we're going to check in with Chris again in the build-up to this major event coming to Steyn City. And Chris, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Quick break and more of the Sandton Times Hour after this.
Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
this is the Sandton Times Hour.
So South Africa's welcomed nearly 5.8 odd million international tourists in the first 7 months of 2025. It's a 14% increase on last year, but we're still falling short of our pre-pandemic levels. And while African markets in Cape Town in particular, with its air access, is showing what's possible, our overseas arrivals lag behind and competitors are pulling ahead. Now we're going to unpack the numbers, the opportunities, and the urgent strategies that the industry must embrace to reclaim its place on the global stage. And joining me on the line to chat about BDO South Africa's Tourism Trends Report, which takes a look at the key trends and highlights of South Africa's tourism industry, is Leanne Back. She's the advisory partner for all things tourism at BDO South Africa. And Leanne, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me. I much appreciate it.
So, Leanne, we're talking about 5.8 odd million international tourists from January to July 2025, which is 1% shy of 2019 levels. What does this almost there recovery really tell us about the state of tourism in our country?
It actually doesn't tell us enough. And I'll tell you why I say that. We actually need to dig into the detail. The devil is in the detail. The high-level figure looks good. As you mentioned earlier, we have had good growth year to date, 14% up on last year. But having not recovered yet to our 2019 or actually 2018 levels, which was our heyday, is a problem. And it might not seem like it's a problem, but if we compare us to other countries and our competitors, we are actually quite a long way behind. So Kenya, Tanzania managed to return to their pre-pandemic levels in 2022 or 2023. You know, South Africa used to be the leading destination in Africa in terms of number of tourist arrivals, and we are now third. And it's not just third. With last year, we had just over 8 million arrivals, there it was, for the year. But Morocco is becomes Africa's top destination. They had 17.4 million arrivals in 2024. In 2016, they had the same number of arrivals as us at 10 million.
Yeah.
So they've managed to go from that number, they've almost doubled. I mean, they've gone from 10 to 17 million, not quite doubling, okay, but extreme. But they've really outpaced us, and we haven't even got back to our 2019 numbers. So yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah, listen, it's a topic that absolutely drives me up the river because it's something that I am very passionate about. And I mean, I look at countries like Italy that saw 71 million tourists in 2024.
Yeah.
And I realize we're not in Europe and we're obviously far away from a lot of major centers around the world. It's a long way to come to South Africa. But I can't understand why not trying to get close to a number like 71 million isn't a national priority for South Africa to create jobs and so on.
Yeah, okay, so absolutely. I mean, 71 million is not achievable. I mean, I think we need to be realistic.
Sure.
But I mean, we definitely had targets of 30 million previously where we wanted to get to. But I mean, really, since 2010, our tourism industry has really been stagnant, if I want to call it that. We've had some good years, we've had some really bad years. We've had a lot of own goals. It is crazy to think that country with the heritage, the culture, the people, the assets that we've got. It's crazy to think that we are laggards the way we are. I mean, doesn't make sense. But when you look at Europe and you look at the sort of the tourism industry, they, as you point out, they've got a big wealthy market right on their doorsteps. And that is something that we as South Africa have actually not capitalized on properly. And that is our neighboring countries and other African countries. We've tended to see them as economic travelers coming to shop, coming to partake in our economy, if you want to call it, but not seeing them as true tourists. And that's actually not the case. So although the story doesn't look so good, we've actually, if you look at our African tourism arrivals, and if you look at our African air arrivals, we're actually doing quite well. Okay, we're not shooting the lights out yet, but this is a market, and when you mentioned at the beginning, what should we be doing? We need to be catering more towards the African market and the tourist market. I'm talking about the leisure tourist market. I'm talking about the real business tourist market. I'm not saying the guys who cross the border for shopping purposes aren't real business people, but I'm talking about the guys that come and stay in Sandton hotels. They are there. We need to do more to attract those people from Africa, and many of them are actually high spenders. And in fact, if you look at Ghana, I mean, we have, this is a big issue for me, is the visa issues that we have. And especially with African countries, we have visa. I mean, it's in Europe, you don't have visa issues. That's why you can travel around. In Africa, we have visa issues. We don't allow Africans to travel to other African countries, our own brothers and sisters. In South Africa and Ghana, I think it was in 2023, we reduced, they put a visa waiver for Ghanaians. The number of Ghanaians that visit this country has skyrocketed. And the thing is that these guys are actually big spenders. They're spending just as much as an average overseas tourist is spending.
Sure.
So it's not like they are. So I mean, these are good markets.
Yeah,
and we need to do more to actually capitalize on that.
Yeah, and look, I mean, unfortunately, South Africa also doesn't have a reputation to being all too friendly to the rest of Africa, which I'm sure also has its own ramifications. Look, luckily, Johannesburg Tourism has launched a brand new logo, which I'm sure is going to do magic for us. But one of the things that's highlighted in the report is the urban decay and safety concerns for visitors. I mean, where do we even start to make this more appealing to tourists? Never mind just getting it right for the citizens of our city.
Well, I think that's exactly what you're saying, getting it right for the citizens of our city. That's where we start. We've got to make it right for South Africans and for Joburgers and for people who live here and people who live in Sandton. We've got to think about what can we do to improve our parks, our open spaces, the security. That will attract tourists. We shouldn't be thinking the other way around. Tourists want to come to where they're people. They want to come and they want to do what Joburgers are doing. They want to partake in that. They don't. And if we're going to sit in our homes behind our big walls, that's a problem. Tourists are not going to be appealed by that, are they? And if we talk particularly about Sandton at the moment, we do have challenges in that tourists have been advised by our own South Africans and Joburgers to not walk the streets, and which is a challenge because you need to be able to walk between your hotel and the shopping center or the convention center and be able to walk around. You can't just take Ubers everywhere. We need to get people out and about. So we need to relook at the center of Sandton. We need to look at Joburg and we need to say, how do we get people out and about and how do we make these attractive places to be? From our parks, I mean, just clean them up, add some decent toilets, fix what's broken, and then keep it maintained.
Yeah. I mean, Leanne, I was staying at a hotel recently in the heart of Sandton and I had a security advisory letter that seems to be quite stock standard because it was laminated in my hotel room advising of what international tourists should and should not be doing. I mean, everything from don't wear watches, don't wear phones, don't walk here, don't walk there. After this time, don't go anywhere. And maybe just to reiterate to those listening, the state that we live in is not normal. This is not normal. And the question is, what do you do to rectify it? And like I said, it's not a matter of just rectifying it for visitors and guests. It's about rectifying it just for the citizens themselves.
So we've spoken about the fact that we need more city improvement districts. Which is really, and I'll keep on harping on about this, it's not a tourism problem, it's an economy problem, and it's a citizen problem. And we need to make sure through those CIDs, we need to make sure that businesses are actively involved in wanting to upgrade an area and work within a particular block or a small area to actually improve it. It's got to be all of us together. Tourism alone can't do it. Citizens alone can't do it. It has to be all of us who've got a vested interest, business, the public sector, the private sector, and communities. We all need to get together to actually to make a concerted effort to make our areas safe.
So for you, if you had to sort of list an executive summary when it comes to a list of priorities, where do you think there needs to be some immediate action?
I can't put them in priority order,
right?
Because there's a lot that's got to happen. The one thing that really, really needs, and we've been talking about it, is our infrastructure. We have to invest in infrastructure, and I'm talking about our roads and support basic infrastructure and our heritage and cultural assets that have gone to rack and ruin, if I want to call it that. But the maintenance, improvement of what we've got, it's imperative. road signage, simple things. We've got to put a concerted effort into improving that. And then in terms of bringing tourists to South Africa, I do think we need to relook at branding South Africa globally. Honestly, I think South Africa's brand is not on a global stage, is not in a good position. Not from a tourism perspective, I'm just talking about a country brand. There's a big issue around that, and I think we need to have a concerted effort to actually get the positive messaging out there about our country. We obviously do need to do a little bit more around our marketing and getting tourists or people wanting to come to visit our country. So if the one thing is the broad brand image, then we actually need to go and from a targeted perspective. And here, I think, in my view, we need to rethink the markets. Markets have changed from pre-COVID. We used to go on a very country approach. It's actually not so much a country approach anymore. It's about lifestyle and life stages. It might be a language component. We might have to think about language, what sort of languages we'll be going for. But we need to think about who are our real target markets and what we want to offer them, and really understand those markets and packaging those products to actually suit their requirements. Then, obviously, from the safety and security issue, which we were talking about, I mean, we have to tackle it, but it has to be tackled from a citizen's perspective as well. And then, economic development is imperative for tourism. Tourism cannot thrive in a declining economy. It adds to, can be a huge contributor to economic growth and development, but we need to have a thriving economy to actually make tourism work for us so that we can actually maximize the opportunity. There's a lot of business tourism that happens through economic growth that fills up our hotels. I mean, especially in Sandton. We need more business people to stay in our hotels, to come for meetings. And then, I still have this, I keep on harping on about it, but I still have this view that South Africans are still not clued up exactly what tourism is all about. And although we sort of talk about it and talk about tourism, I really do believe that we need to start putting tourism at the top of the agenda, and we need to lead from the top as to how important tourism is for us. We've got all these lone voices talking about it, but we need, right from the very top of our country, we need to say that tourism needs to be a priority.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think it would be my priority if it was my choice. But the voice of Leanne Back, Advisory Partner for Tourism at BDO South Africa, taking a look at the state of South African tourism. And thank you for making the time to be on the Sandton Times Hour.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Taking you to the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner, and if you heard something on the show that intrigued you, that you want to find out a little bit more about, didn't manage to take down all the details, we'll hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za, and get the show notes for a detailed breakdown and some additional links and reading for your pleasure on today's edition and all the other editions that we've done. So you can always refer back to the website. Also, check out the social media accounts at Sandton Times, or use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp line 084 726 3866. 084 726 3866. And feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and so much more on the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp number. Time to talk about some entertainment, and I'm sure there's lots lined up, and we connect with our regular entertainment commentator, Tat Wolfen. Tat, what's happening in the world of cinema and entertainment in your diary?
Alrighty, so let's just quickly go over two movies. There's a whole bunch of movies opening on this coming Friday, but the two of them that stand out, one of them is a movie called One Battle After Another. Piques my interest, although, and of course it hasn't been previewed to media as yet, because these days the trend seems to be to preview the movie sort of 5 minutes before it opens on circuit or whatever. It piques my interest, but cautiously so, because it's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who's, in inverted commas, a kind of an art house director. And I have loved some of his movies like Punch Drunk Love from 2002 and Boogie Nights with Mark Wahlberg, which was even earlier, 1997, were two good movies of his. And then he's also made one of the most irritating movies in the history of moviedom, in my opinion, which was called There Will Be Blood. So I'm kind of nervous, but it's good to be nervous about an upcoming movie because that way, it's like going to a roller coaster. It's like, okay, let's see where this takes us.
This is featuring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro. Now, in my book, DiCaprio and Penn are kind of spent forces, but let's see, they might bring something. Benicio del Toro, for me, is still an interesting actor. So altogether, whether it's the cast or the director, I'm kind of, it could be great and it could be awful.
All right, lucky packet.
Yeah, and in the States, it's getting epic releases on 70 mil and Panavision format, which is a film projection format that hasn't been around in about 70 years.
Wow.
But, so it's going to have exclusive Panavision screenings probably in New York and LA. So in the States, they're getting very excited about it. I think in South Africa, it's going to get quite a limited release because it's being perceived, I think, as an arty kind of movie. So that's one battle after another. Another one opening on Friday, which the distributors are also a little bit nervous about, it seems, and I'm not sure why, because I've seen the trailer and it looks interesting.
Okay.
And it's called Dead of Winter, and it's with Emma Thompson. It looks like quite a creepy thriller. It's where she's out in the outback and it's snowing heavily and there's no contact with the outside world and, of course, no cell phone contact or anything. And then she finds out about a girl who's being kidnapped and who's being held in a shed or whatever. But it really looks creepy and tense. I'm quite looking forward to that. That looks as though it could be interesting, and I don't think old Emma would appear in any old nonsense.
Okay.
So Dead of Winter could be exciting.
All right, so that's what's coming up this week. One battle after another. Dead of Winter, both of which we can't really make a judgment call on because we both haven't seen them. But what's it? Pick your chances. Hope for the best, and let's see. But there's been some interesting releases this past weekend. Some movies that have hit the circuit.
Yeah, so there's one called The Threesome, and
that's the one we spoke about last week.
Yes, the one that we referred to not having seen it at that point.
Yes,
and I went in kind of nervously because I thought, okay, this looks like it's aimed at sort of 20-something-year-olds, whatever. So, and I thought, oi, gewalt. I thought, there's going to be a protracted scene of heaving and perspiring and all that kind of stuff. And I'm happy to say there wasn't. The threesome incident happens early in the movie, and it's actually alluded to without any graphic detail, which I thought, wow, well that's pretty impressive, because and this is what I always think, is that we understand what has happened. We don't need that stuff on a commercial screen. I don't know, maybe I'm old-fashioned that way, but it's like, okay, yeah, we know they're getting it on, great, we're very happy for you. Now can we have some story? And this movie does exactly that. So you have this thing that happens between these two girls and a guy, and the movie is all about what follows. So
the consequences, the real consequences of what might have seemed as a good idea at the time.
And the movie actually tells you that, all our actions have equal and opposite reactions.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not what we want.
Yes.
So I was pleasantly surprised with the movie.
And the other movie?
The other movie is called London Calling.
Oh, yes, which we also discussed.
Yes, yeah. I may have even mentioned then that it was shot in Cape Town. It stars Josh Duhamel and a whole bunch of South African actors, including Arnold Vosloo.
Oh, gosh.
So you've got Arnold Vosloo, Neil Sandilands, Brandon Orette. These are all people that we've seen on stage over the years, know. So that brings a little bit of extra interest for South African audiences. Mm-hmm. I must say, I was very amused with the way it was done. It didn't spoil the movie for me. It just made me smile. Okay, so as I said, it's all shot in Cape Town, but the story is set between London and Los Angeles.
Okay.
So what happens in the beginning of the movie, we're in London. So we get a nice aerial stock shot of London. Okay, so now we're in London. And then the story moves to Los Angeles, another aerial stock shot, this time of Los Angeles. So now we're in Los Angeles. It just made me smile. It tickled me, that it's also shot in Cape Town, South Africa, but that just by inserting an aerial drone shot, we go, okay, cool, now we're in London. And after all, watching movies is about suspension of disbelief.
Right.
So you just kind of go with the flow. The locations they use are fairly generic. Like a nightclub could be anywhere in the world, or a dusty road out of the city. It could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It's a UK South African co-production. I went in kind of warily. Okay, let me tell you the essence of the story. Okay, so it's about this. I suppose you could call him like a mafia boss, a head kingpin or whatever, and he has this son who didn't quite live up to his expectations. So his son's in his teens, I guess, chubby, a real geek, and he's into sort of cosplay, or what they call LARP, which is live action role play. So the dad is like the head of a sort of a mafia setup, and the son gets dressed up in these cloaks and things and goes and plays with the other kids who are dressed up as kings, queens, and things. The whole cosplay world.
Yes.
So you can imagine the father is less than delighted. Without giving too much away or anything, there's a hitman played by Josh Duhamel who needs a favor from him. And he says to this hitman, cool, I will grant you your favor, but you have got to take my son under your wing, and you have got to make a good hitman and a good thug out of my son.
Right.
So that's the premise of it.
Worth a watch?
Yes, surprisingly, yes. I was kind of wary going in, but you know what? I was in the mood just for some light entertainment, and that's exactly what it delivers.
Okay, so 2 movies that we haven't seen, 2 movies that we've now seen that we touched on last week, and we'll put up all the details up on the website. Tat, always good to chat to you.
Always fun, and I look forward to catching you next week, Alex.
Absolutely, Tat.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Artificial intelligence isn't just changing how we work, it's changing which jobs exist in the first place. And according to Pnet's latest job market trends report, demand for AI skills in South Africa has skyrocketed, up 77% in just the past year and an incredible 352% since 2019. From machine learning engineers and data scientists to marketers, content creators, and even financial clerks, AI expertise is becoming a must-have skill across numerous industries. And Gauteng seems to be leading the charge with more than half of these roles, followed by the Western Cape. But what does the surge mean for job seekers, for businesses, and for South Africa's economy? Well, to unpack the findings and tell us what the AI skills boom means for the future of work, I'm joined by Paul Byrne. He's the head of insights at Pnet. And Paul, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
Alex, really good to be with you. Thank you for hosting me.
Paul, let's start with the headline figure, a 77% year-on-year surge in AI skills demand. What do you think is driving this explosive growth?
Alex, there is so much change happening in our workplace today. If we look just at the context as a backdrop to why this is happening, naturally, what we're talking about is technology shifts in our market. We've got economic uncertainty. We've got demographic shifts. We've got the green transition. We've got geopolitical issues happening around the world, and that's causing fragmentation. And really, this is reshaping the way that we're thinking about jobs. And I think even coming out of sort of the back end of COVID, we've learned that things can be done quite differently. Then we've got sort of factors at play here that are impacting things like workforce availability. And people are now really rushing to see how we're going to stem the tide of some of the big issues that we're facing in the productivity of tomorrow. And I think AI is answering a lot of the questions that we're asking. And if we look at some of those shifts that I'm talking about, demographically in some first world countries, or let's call them rather high income economies, we're seeing that there are often aging and declining working populations. Conversely, in the lower income economies, we've got the flip side of that. We've got sort of a growing sort of workforce availability. But the problem that really comes down the line is the availability of skills and what it is that we need to be able to perform into this in this modern way of work. And there's so much talk at the moment about the shift in terms of sort of the base of is it necessary to have that typical qualification, that tertiary qualification, or do we need to be focusing our attention on skills-based sort of development and ongoing education and ongoing learning, which almost becomes a completely subset to what it is that we're discussing. Why I'm mentioning all of this is it's the background to what in actual fact is driving this. And we're seeing ourselves through this next sort of transformative age, and people are starting to say, right, okay, we know that there is this massive acceleration in the demand for AI tools, and those companies that have got the type of products that they want to sell that are going to benefit from the use of AI, they are front and center leading the charge in terms of employing the type of skills that are needed, the development skills, the AI engineers, those kind of things. And that's where we're seeing some of that considerable shift, and certainly over the last few years, and just really demanding the drive of that growth. You're talking about the types of skills there, the software developers, the data scientists, the data engineers, and the machine learning engineers. But when we take the figures, the headline figures of that 6-year growth, the 352%, when we look at what's actually happening there, we're seeing over the last 6 years, when I look at specifically those type of skills that I've just mentioned, that growth is around about 252%. And yet over the last 3 years, it's kind of plateaued at about 32% growth. So what we've seen is this massive acceleration in companies wanting to employ AI skills, and make no error, that demand for those skills is going to continue, but it's going to continue at a lesser rate because it started off a very, very, very small base. So that 32% growth is still significant off that bigger base. And again, it's your software developers, data scientists, data engineers, and machine learning engineers that have really been the focus on. Then we've got the second subset, and that goes back to some of the context of what I was talking about now in terms of education and the skills that we've got coming into the market. When we've got the other side of AI, it's us as the general sort of workforce that are not the AI developers that I've been talking about, that need to become more skilled in the way that we are utilizing AI, because there is absolutely no doubt in our minds that we are more effective and more efficient and often more professional in the way that we deliver our work when we are incorporating AI into our daily life, work life. And again, I'm used the word very carefully. I'm saying incorporating, I'm saying not replacing. When we look at the numbers over there, that is also quite significant, because over the last 6 years, again, going back to what you led sort of headlined with it, the 352% growth in general AI skills growth over the last 6 years. When I take it down into the skills for you and me and sort of the general population that are trying to incorporate these skills into our daily life, we've seen a whopping 488% growth in the demand for those skills. And again, if we take it over the last 3 years, that has continued at a rate of about 151%. And I think we're going to see that number continue on that high trajectory for some time still. Because at the end of the day, again, we're more efficient, we're more effective, we're able to be quite a lot more professional in the way that we actually get things done. Some interesting developments that's actually happening in that particular space.
Well, there you have it. Paul Byrne, he's the head of insights at Pnet, looking at the impact of AI skills coming out of the Pnet job market trend report, and what it means for those in the job market, those wanting to enter the job market. And clearly, AI needs to be part of your wheelhouse. It needs to be part of your arsenal if you go into the corporate world. And Paul, it's been great having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Alex.
And that wraps up another Sandton Times Hour for another week. Feel free to send through your questions, comments, and feedbacks. You can use email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times, or visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za, or use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. And feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. As always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform and join the growing online community there. And thank you to my guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team behind the scenes making it all happen and pulling it all together. A very special thank you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.